Hello. Hello. And welcome to the Seattle Atheist Church. Wow, there are so many of you. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Atheists, agnostics, skeptics, freethinkers, questioning, and believers, whatever you like to call yourselves, you are welcome here. At the Seattle Atheist Church, we call ourselves an atheist church because you'll never hear anything supernatural promoted from the podium. The Seattle Atheist Church was founded on the principles of scientific naturalism and secular ethics, which commits us, on the one hand, to reason and evidence-based thinking, and, on the other, to compassion for our fellow humans. These commitments motivate us to oppose magical and wishful thinking and all forms of dogma, as well as to stand firmly against all forms of racism and racial supremacy, against misogyny, against transphobia, against homophobia, against anti-Semitism, and unequivocally against anti-Muslim bigotry. Truth claims are attempted here, and we stand ready to revise our thinking in light of new information. We attempt to be excellent to other conscious beings, and we believe in good, because good works in non-mysterious ways. If that sounds right to you, then you're in the right place. Before we get started with today's talk, we have a few announcements. First, for those of you who are new here, I wanted to let you know that we meet here every Sunday at noon, as we've been doing for almost 5 years now. Our talks are usually given by members of our community on topics of their choosing. Next Sunday, February 2nd, Eliza will be giving a talk titled Sleep, a User's Manual. If that sounds interesting to you, I hope to see you again next week. Besides talks on Sundays, we have a number of other events throughout the month. Every second Saturday of the month, we meet up to play board games at the Wayward Coffee House on 65th and Roosevelt. Every third Saturday of the month is our secular social at Brower's in Fremont at 3 p.m. You can find all the details for our meetups on meetup.com, and you can find the videos of past talks on our YouTube channel. If you find these talks valuable, and you enjoy the discussion afterwards, as I do, then please consider donating to support us. Your donations allow us to rent the room, provide refreshments, continue to foster the community we've grown here, and occasionally put on larger events like this one. Today's suggested donation is $10 to help us defray some of the costs of today's event. If you'd like to make a donation in person here today, we accept cash and checks back there in the jar, outside currently. And Troy over here, Troy, can you please raise your hand? Troy has a card reader if you'd like to use credit. We also have a donate button on our website at www.seattleatheist.church. Okay, on with today's talk. As an atheist church whose mission is to facilitate community among the faithless, we want to show solidarity with fellow atheists of all races and from all places, especially those who are oppressed by conservative forms of oppressive religions. One of the valuable lessons that has come out of the ongoing cultural conversation is that when a person from a minority background is speaking from the heart about their personal lived experience, it's important to simply listen, learn, and above all, take them seriously. Of course, no one individual can be expected to represent the totality of experience of all people from their background. Ahem. But each individual does speak to their unique perspective within the rich cultural tapestry of humanity. It is in this spirit that I'm deeply honored to introduce our guest speaker for today. Yasmine Mohammed is a Canadian human rights activist who advocates for the rights of women living within Islamic majority countries, as well as those who struggle under religious fundamentalism. She's also the founder of Free Hearts, Free Minds, which is an organization that provides psychological support for free thinkers living within Muslim majority countries, where the state-sanctioned punishment for leaving Islam is death. Yasmine is a member of the prestigious Center for Inquiry's Speakers Bureau. She's also on the board of advisors for the Brighter Brains Institute, which is an organization that builds secular schools. She has spoken in Canadian Parliament on M103 and Islamophobia, and has been featured in national publications such as U.S. News, The National Post, The Daily Mail, and The Mirror. She's been invited to speak in Ivy League universities and world-renowned venues for many organizations, including the Freedom from Religion Foundation, the Ayaan Hirsi Ali Foundation, the Ayn Rand Institute, and Think Inc. After her talk, there will be time for Q&A, so please have your questions ready, and please make sure they end in a question mark. Yasmine's book is available to purchase outside in the hallway, and you're welcome to stick around if you'd like your copy signed. So now, without further ado, please join me in welcoming Yasmine Mohammed.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Emma. Thank you, everybody, for coming here today. I really appreciate this. It's my first time speaking here in Seattle, and I'm already overwhelmed with all of the just positive energy in this city, so I'm really, really grateful to be speaking here today. So I specifically wanted to talk to you today about hashtag No Hijab Day. And the reason why I want to talk about this specifically is because No Hijab Day is happening on February 1st. And so that's just a few days from now. And so I wanted to get everybody aware of this campaign that we have going on, which is how freeing your head can free your mind. So let me give you a little bit of background. All right. So there was something called World Hijab Day, and it's been going on for a really long time. And World Hijab Day is, I guess I don't know if the word is celebrated, but it's observed in 140 different countries across the planet. So what happens on World Hijab Day is that booths are set up in colleges, universities, political buildings, in corporations, and in that booth are a bunch of scarves, a bunch of hijabs. And non-Muslim women are encouraged to wear the hijab for a day. And so this is a quote from Sheikh Omar Suleiman from the Yaqeen Institute in the US. And he says, World Hijab Day is a beautiful initiative in which Muslim sisters can experience the beauty of hijab and hopefully transition from a one-day commitment to a lifetime commitment. So basically, it's a day to encourage people to start wearing hijab. And so as a response to that, I wanted to create a day where we could celebrate women who do not want to wear hijab. And, you know, the polar opposite of this day would be for us to encourage Muslim women to remove their hijabs. But of course, there's no way that we could ever do that, because I know that women who remove their hijab in some countries can be imprisoned. They will be ostracized by their community, by their family, they can be beaten, they can even be killed. So I would never encourage girls to remove their hijab. Instead, what we're doing is we are celebrating the women who have removed their hijabs and who have gone through such negativity in making that decision about what they want to put on their own bodies. And so we wanted to counter that with some love and support and let them know that we honor them, we celebrate them, we recognize what they've been through, and you know, just give them an applause for one day of the year. So, I'm not sure if you've heard, but there was a girl at a university who was encouraged to wear hijab, and she's a non-Muslim girl, and she said, no, I'm not going to wear that, because there are women in Iran right now in prison because they don't want to wear that hijab, and you're over here in the free United States of America telling me to put the hijab on. No, I'm going to stand in solidarity with the feminists around the world who are fighting against this tool of misogyny. That girl was attacked by the Muslim Students Association for being, guess what the word is? Everybody? That's right. An Islamophobic bigot. And there was a campaign to get her expelled from the university. Luckily, that didn't happen. Let's see if this works now. Nope, it doesn't. I don't know if I'm doing it or if you're doing it. I am, okay. All right, so we created No Hijab Day, but like I said, that's on February 1st, and it's to celebrate the women who have removed it, it's to counteract the vicious hate, and it's to encourage women to tell their stories. Now, February 1st hasn't happened yet, but already if you go on my Twitter account, you'll see that I'm already posting pictures of women who are sharing their stories. Just yesterday, it was 3 tweets after each other of women who used to wear niqab. So one woman who was in Australia, the niqab was put on her at 12 years old. And that's important to note because a lot of people think that that's just the kind of thing that happens over there, but it happens everywhere. I was, born and raised in Vancouver, BC, not too far from you, and I wore niqab up there too. So, and also up in Canada, some really atrocious things have happened. One of those atrocious things is that this young girl here, 16 years old, her name is Aqsa Parvez, she was strangled to death by her father and her brother with the hijab that she refused to wear. So they killed their daughter because she wouldn't wear hijab, and that's in Canada. This story is, of course, all over the Muslim majority world. You've heard the term honor violence, you've heard the term honor killings. So this is, like in Saudi Arabia, somebody just took a picture for me. There's a sign that says, you can tell a real man by how covered his women are. So these are the kinds of, this is the kinds of messages that they're getting, that a real man, in order to protect his family, in order to protect his family's honor, needs to control the women in that family. And if those women refuse to be controlled, then this is their fate. So this day, No Hijab Day, is an important day because we want to raise awareness for cases like Aqsa's and cases that are happening all over the planet. Because here in the US, you have logos like the Nike logo put on a hijab. You have a hijab on the cover of Sports Illustrated. You have it being sold in Marks and Spencer in the UK or Banana Republic here in the US. You have it on the cover of Elle magazine. I mean, I could go on and on and on and on. It's everywhere. And people think that it's just a benign piece of clothing. It's just cultural clothing, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's diversity, it's inclusivity. So this day is really important to raise awareness of the fact that it has nothing to do with culture, it has everything to do with religion. Women in over 60 Muslim majority countries are wearing this hijab, not because they share a culture. They don't. They don't speak the same language, they don't eat the same food, they have nothing in common except for their religion that tells them that if they do not wear this on their head, they will be hung by their hair in hell as their brains boil. So those are the messages that these women are getting, and that's why they're wearing this hijab, and that's why women are being imprisoned and, in some extreme cases, killed. So it's not just a benign piece of clothing. And when you plaster it all over every flat surface in a free country like this, it's really, really insulting, and it is such a stab in the back to all the feminists around the world that are literally dying to just make the decision about what to put on their own bodies. So, this is a poster from the 2016 Liberal Women's March. And there could not be more of a lie. Like, the hypocrisy is so blatant that in a liberal women's march, this would be the symbol. Because that is anti-woman and it is anti-liberty. And so to choose something like that, and then I'm not even American, but I'm actually offended that the American flag is fashioned into this tool of misogyny, a symbol of supposed freedom and liberty and democracy, is being used for the exact opposite purpose. So you have been sold Islamist lies. You have been told, this is empowering, this is feminism, they like it, they want to wear it. You know in your heart of hearts that that can't be true. You either are a woman or you have met women, you have women in your family or friends, and you know that there is no woman that ever wants to be told, you must wear this in order to be modest. We know about victim blaming, we know about slut shaming, we know about feminism. These are not new things that we're all of a sudden going to forget everything that we've learned and accept the fact that this is somehow empowering and feminist. You know that that's not true. But you keep on getting told that. And even though Islam is the second largest religion on the planet, it's not, information about Islam is not readily available here. It's a minority group here, and people are not familiar with it. So it's very easy to sell these lies to you, and you just accept it. But if you think about it, regardless of what geographical location a woman is in, women are women. We all want our autonomy. We all want our freedom. We all want to be empowered. Men too, right? You wouldn't want to be controlled and being told what it is that you want to wear, what it is that you have to wear on a daily basis. Now, a lot of people say to me, okay, it's just a piece of cloth. Why are you getting all worked up over a piece of cloth? So it's literally like if you see a prisoner and they have shackles on. The handcuffs that you see are just it's just the visual representation of the slavery that is behind, right? So this hijab is just the visual representation of the subjugation, of the gender apartheid, of the dehumanization, of just the way women are treated like second-class citizens in general. Once you remove those shackles, then women can start to take steps forward to improving their lives. So that's why I say how freeing your head can free your mind. And one of my favorite stories is last year on No Hijab Day. There was a Muslim woman that I was speaking with her for probably about a year and a half. We were just messaging each other on Twitter. And then when it came close to No Hijab Day, she said, I'm going to do it, Yasmine. I'm going to do it. I'm going to post a video on No Hijab Day. And she's from Montreal in Canada where they speak French. And she's from a Lebanese background. So she has this little video where she makes a statement, something about misogyny and something. That statement, then she says it in Arabic, English, and French. And then she takes her hijab off. And she has the cutest, brightest smile. She's all embarrassed because that's the first time people are seeing her hair. And that video just went viral. And she was so celebrated and so encouraged that she decided that she was also going to leave her abusive husband. And then, when she was in a women's shelter, she decided, and I'm also going to leave Islam. And so that's the power of making that first decision for yourself, what I'm going to put on my body, is like taking the first step outside of the door of where you're being controlled. So here I say no luxury. I think that, the example that I give is in North Korea. There's a lot of atrocities that are going on in North Korea right now, and a lot of people are being hurt, but we don't know about it. We're not aware of it. It's not on our soil. And it used to be like that about, I say Muslim majority countries because it's not only the Middle East, it's all over the world. In Muslim majority countries, it used to be like that. It's happening over there, it's not our problem, but what you need to realize now, ever since 9/11, I think everybody should be aware, is it is here. It is now your problem. It is happening on your soil. So you have every right to get involved. You have every right to get engaged. You have every right to have conversations about this. And I'm encouraging you to read, learn, Google search, read this book, or any other book you can get your hands on the topic, and come to your own decisions. Because there's a real danger in us just sitting back and accepting the sound bites that we're being told. And one example of those dangers is this recent killing of the terrorist in Iran, Soleimani. There was such misinformation around him. People didn't know who he was. People didn't realize that he's no different than Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi or Osama bin Laden. He's just a terrorist, except that he's a terrorist on the Shia side as opposed to on the Sunni side. And so you had people saying things like, he's a hero, he fought ISIS. Well, he literally is ISIS, but he's the Shia ISIS. So he's not anymore, he's not less dangerous, or he's not less of a terrorist, but the fact that there wasn't enough information about him meant that it was really easy for misinformation to come seeping in. So the hijab is one example. This is another example. There's going to be many, many more examples of, if you're not aware of what's going on, then it's going to be really easy for you to get fooled into whatever propaganda wants to get sold to you. And don't be, I mean, Iran is a dictatorship that it's all about the propaganda. That funeral that you were seeing with people lining the streets, they were bussed there. Schools were shut down, businesses were shut down, people were forced to be in the streets. They weren't going there and mourning because they wanted to. In fact, people that didn't go and mourn were being tortured and imprisoned. Okay, so let's bring it back to the hijab again. And I want to tell you a little bit about how young girls are coerced into hijab. Now, in countries like Iran, at 7 years old, if you want to go to school, you have to wear hijab. You cannot go to school unless you're wearing hijab. But everywhere else in the world, girls are being told very, very common stories. This is one here. Do you want to be covered up and clean? Keep in mind, these are young girls, right? Like 6, 7-year-old girls. So they use symbols like a lollipop. Would you rather eat this lollipop that's covered up and clean? Or do you want to be that filthy, uncovered lollipop over there covered in bugs? Do you want to be a good, pure, clean girl and go to heaven? Or do you want to be a filthy, dirty whore that burns in hell? And if you're familiar with kids, if you have kids or nieces or nephews, you know that kids will do anything to please their parents. And so even though they don't like it, even though they don't want to wear it, they will still wear it because they want their family's approval. And then when they grow up and they think, oh, I don't want to wear this anymore, I have just discovered that this is a tool of misogyny, I now understand what slut-shaming means, and that's exactly what's happening here. I now understand what victim blaming means, and I don't want to wear this cloth anymore, and so she decides she wants to take it off. And that's when things go really badly. So these are some feminists in Saudi Arabia that started a hashtag, burn the niqab. I mean, these women, I never thought I would live to see the day. Honestly, I'm amazed. And it's really thanks to the anonymity of the internet, because these voices were there and these women were thinking this and feeling this, but they were too scared to speak up. But now they can start an anonymous account and start up a hashtag like burn the niqab, and then they can see how supported they are. And the same thing was happening in Iran with a hashtag started by Masi al-Jinadad, and that is called White Wednesdays. And basically, if a woman wore a white scarf, then it was like alerting other women in white scarves, like the resistance. I'm with you, girl. I also don't want to be wearing this. And that became such a huge campaign, and it encourages people, more and more people, to fight when you see that there is support of others around you. So what I'm hoping to see from you here is support for those women, support for the feminists, as opposed to support for the fundamentalist communities that encourage women to wear these tools of misogyny. We know that purity culture is wrong for us. We know that modesty culture is wrong for us. It is also wrong for them. We would not be encouraging, we wouldn't be excited about seeing Mormon underwear on the cover of Sports Illustrated, right? We would all think that's ridiculous. And why would Sports Illustrated do that? And why would Nike put their swoosh on, like a little Amish bonnet, for example, or the long skirts that Baptist women wear? They never would, because that would be endorsing that fundamentalist ideology. And when they do that with the hijab, that's essentially what they're doing there too. So I want us to be supporting the feminists that are strong enough to stand in the streets waving their hijabs on a stick, the feminists that get imprisoned for that, the feminists that are burning their niqabs and posting videos online. Those are the women that I stand in solidarity with, and that I hope you will too. Oops. So this is a glimpse into the abuse that women get when they grow up and decide, actually, I don't want to wear this hijab anymore. So this is a woman who lives in the UK, and she is a very big star in the modesty, in the hijab fashion world. So she has books, and she's been on music videos and whatever. And then she decided, I don't want to wear this hijab anymore. So when she made that decision, she was so attacked by the community that she decided to post a video where she does nothing but read out the hate. And the video is about an hour long, but of course, I'm only going to let you listen to the first 3 or 4 minutes just to get an idea of what it's like if you're in that community and you decide to make a decision for yourself about what you want to put on your body.
She's now saying Islam made her wear a scarf, and now that she doesn't want to wear it, people are making her feel bad. Mate, are you stupid or something? You should be happy people are giving dawah and saying, listen, it's your choice. If you don't want to wear it, but keep practicing Islam. And dumb bitch Dina decides to mock the scarf instead and say she's being ganged up on a stupid cow. The Sahabas, the companions of the Prophet, were so happy that if they did something wrong, people would correct them towards Islam, and today it's seen as an insult. Fucking Illuminati cult slag. Were you ever Muslim, or have you done pacts to become famous Illuminati shit? Someone give her a sandwich. Oh my god, in a few years nobody will want to look at her saggy face. Slowly you will be a porn star. You are a sick person mentally. You are such a loser. Dina didn't get banged enough when she was young. Now she's opening up sexually. I've seen this too many times. Dog. Okay, scarf off. So when's her modest clothes going to start coming off as well? I hope you and your family all die painfully and slowly. Absolute disgrace. That is disgusting. She looks at least 48 without hijab, no lie. I unsubscribed to your channel. Waste of time, fake Muslim. Sorry, Dina, I am no one to tell you, but I think you lost all the attraction and beauty. I guess she's not a Muslim anymore. Disgusting. Dina looks like an old witch. She has aged. She a fat whore with a grommet nose. Very disappointed that you don't wear a hijab. I know you don't like people hating, but how dare you take off your hijab? This is why you are getting so many dislikes and less subscribers. Used the hijab to get fame, and now she's settled and making money. Disses the hijab and shows her true colours. Never found her interesting, and hopefully Muslims will unsubscribe. And let's see how many non-Muslim subscribers she gets. Bye, you stinky woman. You fucking gay without hijab.
I used to teach in the Middle East, and I had a student come into my office, and she was so upset. And she just didn't like this other instructor, and she wanted to complain to me about her. And she was like, oh, teacher, she is Jewish lesbian. It was like the 2 worst things she could think of to call somebody. So that's just an example of the kinds of hate that Dina was getting. If you're interested, you can listen to the rest of the video. But you got a sense of it, right? There were death threats. Later on, there's rape threats. And accusing her of not being Muslim, accusing her of being a non-believer, which is very dangerous accusation, because somebody like me who has left the religion should be executed according to Islamic law. So when they say that, they're essentially, it's kind of a veiled death threat as well. So I'm here today to encourage you guys to choose a side. It's very, especially in Canada, I'm from Canada, where everybody's like, I just want everyone to be happy. Everybody can just wear what they want to wear. It's none of my business. But we cannot stand by the sidelines and just say, oh, it's none of our business. People can do whatever they want to do. Because there is a literal war going on right now, and women are being killed. Women are being imprisoned. And when you take that thing that is getting them imprisoned and you're putting it all over your media and all over your corporation advertisements and everything, then you are now engaged on that side of the fight. So you are like, this is where Nike is, this is where Banana Republic is, you're all over here supporting the veil, endorsing it, slapping your logo on it, and you should be on the other side of, you should be on the side of freedom over there. I know you are. That's what your country stands for. I know that women here say, free the nipple. That's how much freedom they want, right? But what about free the face? What about free the hair? Women over there matter too. And what they don't want anything different than what you want, which is just the freedom to choose. Some of them may choose to still wear it, and that's fine as long as they have that freedom, as long as nobody has coerced them into it. So I'm encouraging you to please speak out on the side of freedom and do not support the groups or the corporations. At least let them know. Let them know that is a fundamentalist ideology. I don't support that. Because corporations are only going to do what you want. And if they're getting a positive reaction, and if people are thinking, ooh, this is so great seeing hijab everywhere, then they're just going to continue to do that. So you need to let them know that you're not okay with it. And so this is just another visual representation of what I was saying earlier about we are either going to be on the side of religious fundamentalism or we're not. We cannot, I don't know what is going on here exactly. Like Nike would never put their logo on any other fundamentalist religious clothing. So why are they choosing to put their logo on Islamic fundamentalist clothing? It doesn't make any sense. And I think that that's one of the dangers of misinformation and misunderstanding and people thinking that it's cultural clothing and not understanding that no, it's actually religious clothing that women are coerced into and that they're not able to take off when they decide to take it off. And these are some consequences of us sitting on the sidelines and not standing by the women that need our support. So these are just two women. There are, of course, millions more. The woman on the left here is Lujain Al-Hathlul, and she's from Saudi Arabia. She actually went to the same university I did in BC. And she is in prison right now because she was fighting for two things. First, she was fighting for the right for women to be able to drive. And secondly, she was fighting for the gender apartheid laws in Saudi Arabia, the guardianship laws. She was fighting for those to be abolished. So the guardianship laws, literally guardian, meant every woman had to have a prison guard, essentially. It was an open-air prison. But no woman could ever travel on her own. She can't go to work. She can't go to school. She can't leave the house. She can't do anything unless her guardian gives her approval. And that guardian is her father, and then it's passed on to her husband, or it could be passed on to her. If her husband dies or whatever, then it would be her brother, and in some cases even her son. Just as long as it's a male, and they can guard every one of the females in their family. So those are the things that Lujain fought for, and she's now in prison. And just to give you an idea of how successful Lujain was in her advocacy, there's a picture where she was receiving an award, a human rights award, where she is standing in between Hillary Clinton and Michelle Obama. So, and now she's rotting in prison. Those women stood next to her when she was winning an award. They know how valuable she is. They know how important she is, but they won't speak up for her now that she's in prison. She also has pictures with Meghan Markle. So, you know, she's a very prominent feminist, and of course that's why they wanted to imprison her, because she was making changes. And we do believe that it was because of her that Saudi Arabia even changed their laws, even though it's just window dressing, but they changed their laws against women being allowed to drive. And over on the other side here we have Nasreen Sotoudeh, and she is from Iran. And she is a lawyer, a human rights defender and a human rights lawyer. And she would defend the women that were going to prison for not wearing hijab. And because she did her job as a lawyer, defending these women, she was sentenced to 38 years in prison and 148 lashes. So in Saudi Arabia and in Iran and in other Sharia law countries, they publicly lash people or cane people for breaking Sharia. So these are just two examples. The women that are fighting over there need our support. They need our voices. They need us to stand with them, not with the fundamentalists that they are fighting against. So, as a final reminder, February 1st, No Hijab Day. Please go to that hashtag, retweet the pictures and the videos of the women that are telling their stories, and hopefully you'll share your insight too. You'll share your stories as well. Tell us why you're supporting No Hijab Day. Get in on this conversation. You're a part of this conversation. It's not over there, it's over here. You are engaged in it. It's on your soil, it's your neighbors, it's in your backyard. You have every right to get engaged, and I hope you will. Now, to end my talk today, I'm going to read a chapter from my book, aptly named Hijab. At the age of 9, I was fitted with my first hijab, which I was now required to wear. I hated it instantly. I hated it when my mom started wearing it, and I especially hated it now that I was expected to wear it. I begged for alternatives. Can I please just shave my head instead? What if I wear a wig? Like the Jews? You want to be like the Yahud? I tried to negotiate my way out. How come you didn't have to wear it when you were my age? Because my parents didn't know better. They should have made me wear it. I wished she didn't know better. I wished she would allow me the reprieve that she had been offered. I tried every tactic my 9-year-old brain could muster, but nothing worked. Gone were all my clothes. Pants were no longer allowed. Now I was to cover every inch of my body but my face and hands. This was the moment that the final nail was hammered into the coffin of my childhood. I felt so awkward, so uncomfortable, so hot in those stupid oversized clothes. My whole body was suffocating. My head throbbed and my skin oozed sweat from every pore. And every day they told me that dressing like the kuffar, the non-believers, was evil and that I would go to hell if I dressed that way. Besides, when the caliphate rises, if you're not wearing hijab, how will you be distinguished from the non-believers? If you look like them, you'll be killed like them. Ah, the caliphate. Always about the caliphate. Every Friday khutbah, sermon, there was the declaration that Muslims will succeed in turning the whole planet Islamic. Every Friday we chant Ameen as the Imam makes a dua, a plea to Allah, that the caliphate rises soon and that we eradicate non-believers. Then there will be peace. It is why when ISIS rose in Iraq and Syria, so many people from around the world, inexplicable people like university students from affluent families in Western countries, decided to join ISIS and burn their passports. The response from pundits was to assume that these people were all recruited online. That's some pretty quick recruiting. The reason why all of those young men and women so quickly joined ISIS was because, just like me, they were raised hearing about how it was their duty to join the Ummah against the non-believers. They were taught that it was their duty to join the caliphate when it rises. Probably, like me, they didn't really think they would ever see the day. But then there it was, an Islamic State. This NSA that heard us say ISIS and Islamic State, they're like... As soon as it existed, these people already knew what they had to do. It had been drilled into them since childhood. My mother used to sit me down and make me promise that I would be willing to kill non-believers when the time came. Yes, sure, I would respond in monotone. There was always some sort of coercion going on. I was forced to pray, to memorize Quran, to promise to kill my friends, and of course, wear this hideous hijab. Every conceivable method of coercion was deployed. Fear, a desire to please Allah, emotional blackmail, it was all unending. Only obedient Muslim daughters can go to heaven. If you dress like the kuffar, you are choosing hell. That is the self-hate that I was filled with from the age of 9. I was told of the hadith where Prophet Muhammad claims he saw women hung by their hair in hell with their brains boiling because they did not cover their hair from men. And I was told that it was for my own protection. If you had a diamond ring, would you wear it on your finger or would you keep it in a safety deposit box? I would wear it on my finger. No, that's stupid. Anyone can steal it. You have to protect it, guard it against thieves. What's the point of having a nice ring if you can't even wear it? What good is it in a box? Stop arguing. This is better for you. You will learn to love it. When you grow up, you will understand. Can I wait until I grow up and understand first? Because I don't know. I have to do what's best for you, even if you don't understand. I never did understand. I wore hijab for almost 20 years, and I never understood. I went to visit my dad in Montreal in the summer between grades 5 and 6, and he didn't understand either. He tried to get me to take it off, and I definitely wanted to, but I was scared that once we got back home, my brother would tell on me. So I wore a black cowboy hat that whole summer instead. My dad accepted it, as it wasn't that dreaded hijab, and technically my hair was covered, so my brother had no case. Back home again, all the girls at the Muslim school wore hijab too, and they all hated it as much as I did. It's true that misery loves company. The fact that all of us were forced to wear that piece of cloth on our head offered us all some comfort. We all wore it, and sharing in our disdain for it brought us closer together. And now with social media, women across the planet who hate it, yet who are still forced to wear it, can find comfort in each other. Under the hashtag #MyStealthyFreedom from Iran, there is a viral video of a 7-year-old girl crying and ripping the hijab off her head. She reminds me of myself, but I was not nearly as brave or defiant. She is angry because her parents tell her that she will not be allowed to go to school unless she wears this on her head. Her brother can wear whatever he wants, of course. Young girls or grown women from all across the world have posted pictures and videos under the hashtag #FreeFromHijab, a hashtag we created to give the women a place to find each other, to find solidarity, find support, and most importantly, to give them a voice, to expose this atrocity to the world. It is important to clarify the distinction between culture and religion when talking about the hijab. A common response from people is that hijab is cultural clothing. But which culture are they referring to? Women in Iran, Saudi Arabia, Somalia, and Indonesia share no cultural aspects. They do not have similar food, or clothing, or traditions, or language. The only thing they share is religion. Hijab is worn by women in all those countries because of the religion of Islam, not because of any culture. Claiming the hijab is cultural clothing is as vacuous as claiming the Pope hat is cultural. Catholics from the Philippines, Italy, or South America share no cultural aspects, but they share a religion. There has been a deliberate conflation of religion and culture that only serves to erase cultures and replace them with the monolith of Islam. Dozens of countries lost their cultures to Islam. It is sad to see that there remains this pervasive idea that Muslims all share a culture. No, they do not. They each have distinct cultures that have just been shrouded by Islam in the same way each individual girl's personality gets shrouded by hijab so that they all start looking the same. This erasure of individual culture is perpetuated by campaigns such as International World Hijab Day on February 1st, a day that is observed across the planet. On that day, Muslim women set up booths in places of business or schools and encourage non-Muslim to wear hijab for a day. So I instead deemed February 1st to be No Hijab Day, and I encouraged everyone to stand in solidarity with women and girls across the world who do not want to wear hijab, but are forced by their governments, their communities, or their family. That day was a heartwarming success. Women from Saudi Arabia and Yemen posted videos of themselves stepping on or burning their hijabs and niqabs, the face covers. Women from Turkey started posting before and after photos of when they wore hijab and after they removed it. Women in Iran, the bravest women of all, are imprisoned for decades for partaking in the White Wednesdays campaign, where they wear a white hijab, or remove their hijabs to show their resistance to the discriminatory laws. Women all over the world are resisting. Women in Pakistan are riding their bikes in public. Women in Iran are dancing in the streets. Women in Saudi Arabia are wearing their abayas, the black cloaks that they're forced to wear, inside out in an effort to recognize other dissidents when in public. And men are involved too. Some men in Iran, and to a much lesser extent in Saudi Arabia, are joining in solidarity with the women protesting against the hijab laws. Of course, all of these people are punished for their crimes against Sharia. Either they are punished by their families in what is referred to as honor violence or honor killings, or they are punished by their governments that imprison them for decades for defying the laws created to maintain modesty. Quite often I hear people wonder, what's the big deal if you have to wear a scarf on your head? The big deal is that women are not even allowed agency over their own bodies. Hijab is just the tip of the iceberg. It's the physical representation of the subjugation and dehumanization and absolute gender apartheid that is commonplace in many parts of the Muslim majority world. While women in the West have gained their freedom to the extent that they are now calling to free the nipple, women in many parts of the Islamic world just want to free their face and free their hair. Women in the West generally support one another in their resistance, but it's important to note that in societies that are highly patriarchal and highly misogynist, women rarely support one another. Each woman is too concerned with saving her own skin to be concerned about the skin of any other woman. This is by design, of course. If women are too busy viewing one another as competition, as their husbands can marry up to 4 women, then there is no threat that they will work together against the common enemy. Keep the women fighting one another so that they're too busy to join forces against their oppressors. The internet is changing all that. It is monumental. Women are not only removing their hijabs in public, but they're also dancing in public, singing in public, riding their bikes in public, jogging in public. All of these simple activities are either against the law in some countries or come at a very high social cost. So on No Hijab Day, I hope that you will encourage all of those brave women and support them. Thank you. Anybody has any questions? Okay, I saw yours first. Gentlemen. Oh.
Would you like to share how and when did you get rid of the hijab and become an activist to make the awareness? Along
Sure.
with that, you feel so courageous to keep the same name.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, different answers for each one of those questions. So the first one is, when did I remove the hijab? So I was in my mid to late 20s when I was wearing it part-time. And, when I was in university after 9/11 is when I started, it shook my faith. I was like, I don't want to be associated with the people that just did that. And so that is when I started to remove the hijab, but only at night, when I'd go partying with my friends. But during the day, I kept the hijab on. And that went on like just this slow unraveling of just wearing it part-time for a few years until everybody in my life knew I wasn't wearing hijab except for my mom. She was the only person left who I was keeping it from. And then one day she asked me to drive her to the doctor. And so I said, you know what? Today's the day. This is it. I'm going to go without a hijab on. And I had the hijab in the back seat of the car just in case, my bravery wasn't as strong as I thought it was. But I didn't put it on. And when I went to pick her up and she saw me, she got very upset, and that's when she told me that I wasn't her daughter and she wants nothing to do with me, and that she is going to make sure that I am killed before I leave Islam, because if I'm taking off my hijab, the next step is to leave Islam, and she must kill me before that happens, because it is her responsibility to make sure that she doesn't have a non-believing daughter, because if she has a kafir daughter, then Allah's going to punish her. So she has to sort of repent to Allah by killing me. And I suspected that would be her response, because I know the religion and I know how dedicated she is. And that is just a very logical response. There's no, this is my daughter, I am her mom, like that doesn't come into play. So that was my story of removing the hijab. Remind me again of your other questions. You had 3 in a row.
You become an activist.
Yes. So I stayed quiet for many, many years because my daughter's father is a member of Al-Qaeda. And so it was very dangerous for me to speak out because he has friends and connections. And I explain it in detail in my book, but really it was an episode of Real Time with Bill Maher, where he had Sam Harris and Ben Affleck. And that happened in like 2014. So you can go back in YouTube and you can find that episode. It's an infamous episode where Ben Affleck calls Bill Maher and Sam Harris gross and racist. And that was the day I decided to speak out, because I agreed with everything that Bill and Sam were saying. And everybody attacked them the next day, but they got attacked for being white American men. Nobody said anything about their arguments. What about the points that they were making? Nobody even addressed them. And so I said, okay, I'm going to be a brown Arab woman, and I'm going to say the exact same thing these men are saying, and now what? Now you're going to have to engage with the actual argument, because you can't, attack my immutable characteristics. And then that leads to the third question, which is, why do you have the name Yasmine Mohammed? That's because when I first started speaking out, as you can guess, the reactions were, oh, you're just a hateful white girl, you're just a bigot Islamophobe, you're a white supremacist, that kind of rhetoric. And so I decided that I would use the name Mohammed to very clearly identify that I come from a Muslim background.
You mentioned White Wednesdays and wearing the robe inside out and that kind of stuff, and the political problems and the JLS kind of thing. I mean, it seems to me that far worse than that is the husband. I mean, she's going to go out of the house, or even if she does it surreptitiously, he's going to find out about it, and I mean, that seems to be a much bigger issue. Is that the case?
Yeah, that's definitely, you know, husband, brother, and in some cases, mother, sister, actually. That's we talk about internalized misogyny here. That's very internalized over there. So, you know, like Christopher Hitchens, when he talks about FGM, he notes that it is women doing this to young girls. You know, the men aren't even involved. The men say, I'm not going to marry a girl who isn't cut because she's dirty. And so then mothers will go and slice their own daughters. And so it's the whole society. I'm talking about, so sometimes they can be imprisoned, but even if they're in countries where it's not against the law, my God, the barriers are everywhere. No. Yes?
Yeah, I just wondered if you had ever entertained the idea of Stockholm Syndrome.
Oh.
In terms of, like, for example, you know, like the Book of Mormon is a comedy that's been all over the country, satirizing the absurd ideas of Mormons. Then people object to the slightest criticism of Islam. Are they afraid of these people? Are they afraid of what they're going to do to them if they criticize them, but they want to couch this in terms of cultural sensitivity and all kinds of slimy, mendacious bullshit when you say this is really, you know, Stockholm Syndrome?
So when you initially said Stockholm Syndrome, I thought you meant people that are indoctrinated in Islam. And that I would totally agree with that. But I think what's happening in the West is this is just my opinion. I think that it has, a big part of it is fear. So you talk about criticizing Islam. Look what happened to the Charlie Hebdo cartoonists in France. So this is why people are afraid to criticize Islam, because you have the jihadis on one side that are going to scare people with, you know, knives and bombs and, you know, trucks of peace. And then on this side, you have the Islamists, like the Muslim Brotherhood, scaring people with terms that they created, like Islamophobia. So they're both serving the same purpose, which is to stop you from criticizing this religion, but just using two different ways. Now, in other countries, like obviously in Pakistan and Bangladesh and all over the world, people want to criticize this religion. One very famous example in Saudi Arabia is Raif Badawi, who just had a blog where he was criticizing the fact that Saudi Arabia wanted to build a mosque on the footprint of 9/11. And he said, can you guys just imagine, like, we don't even let churches get built in our country at all, but just imagine if some Christians had come here and killed 3,000 of us, and then they had the gall to say, and we're going to build a church there. So for him posting that, he's now in prison for 10 years and also was sentenced to 1,000 public lashings. So that's what happens when people over there want to criticize the religion or aspects of the religion. Over here, the punishment obviously is not anywhere near that. First Amendment, free speech. People should be able to speak out against harmful ideologies, but the reason why they don't is because they don't want to be called Islamophobic and bigoted, and it's just not worth it to them. It's too high of a price to pay socially to have people smear them with things like that. But of course, what you're doing when you bite your tongue is you're capitulating to the bullies. They already won. Once you bite your tongue, the terrorism, it's successful. It worked. That's exactly what they wanted. Okay, yeah, yeah.
So I can't see you, so I'm going to stand if that's okay. So I live in a retirement home, which has a reputation of being extremely liberal. The Republican members of our community could hold their meetings in the elevator if they wanted to. And we have a bulletin board in our mailroom, and I post things, free speech things from time to time, like on the library trying to deny a room to a feminist group and stuff. But it's easy for me to picture myself posting something about No Hijab Day there. But we also have a whole lot of women who are employees who are taking care of us in our old age, who are Muslim and wear hijab. And I don't want to offend them. I'd love to put this up and think that they could see it and think, somebody cares about my freedom, but I have no idea what they would think.
Yeah. So this is a common question that comes up all the time. And it's like, okay, so because you're afraid that you might offend somebody by calling for freedom, you're not going to call for freedom? So you're going to leave these women to be ignored? So you're basically providing cover for these women to continue to be oppressed. That's literally the subtitle of my book. So that's how Western liberals empower radical Islam. When you have Muslim feminists fighting for their autonomy and you choose not to support them because you don't want to offend the fundamentalist Muslims, then you are empowering the fundamentalist Muslims. So that's just the situation, and it's up to you how much you want to do, or you make your own decisions. I'm just going to take this gentleman and then you.
I just want to thank you for your voice. I think you're incredibly brave, and it's amazing to me that we have people like Linda Sarsour and Ilhan Omar as the leading voices of Islam in the United States. I just want to ask you, I see there's kind of two different schools of thought with ex-Muslims. You have people on one side like Majid Nawaz, where he goes the Reformation route.
He's still a Muslim.
Yeah, yeah. So it's then you have the other side that just encourages, I guess, secularism. I guess, where do you stand on that divide? Whether there should be a push towards reformation of Islam, or if we should just be pushing towards pure secularism?
Well, I'm agnostic atheist. I don't believe in any religion, so I'm not going to support the reformation of Islam. It's just like the a more benign bullshit. You know what I mean? So that's my own personal choice. However, I am definitely going to stand shoulder to shoulder with Majid or Asr Nomani or Zuhdi Jasser or all of the other Muslim reformers, but it's their business to reform their religion. And, I'll stand over as an ally on the side, but it's not my fight.
I've just seen ex-Muslims, I've seen Sarah Hayter mention that it's kind of a lost cause. Like, she thinks it's fruitless. I'm just curious whether you think that has any value, or you think it's totally wasted time.
I honestly and truly believe that, and this is having lived in Muslim majority countries for over a decade of my life, that if Muslims are given the choice between freedom, secularism, democracy, liberalism, or Sharia, it's a no-brainer. They're going to definitely go running out the door. So part of the issue here is we don't have a separation of mosque and state. People are too scared to leave the religion publicly because they're too afraid of the cost of doing that. So I do think that there is value in offering people a route, because it's really difficult to leave Islam. You lose, if a lot of the people that I speak to have families, have children, they know they're never going to see their kids again. They just won't. They're never going to let their child, if you're a Muslim father, for example, you're never going to let your kid hang around with a non-Muslim mother. You talked about Majid Nawaz. He has not seen his son in decades because he speaks out against fundamentalist Islam. He's still a Muslim, but he's not Muslim enough to be allowed to see his own son. So that's a really high price to pay. So if you give people an out by saying, okay, well, how about if you're just like a different kind of Muslim, the kind of Muslim that ignores most of your religion, but still keeps the label, then they can't kill you, right? Then they can't, well, they still might ostracize you in your family and community and stuff, but at least you're still in the in group instead of in the out group. So it gives them that. And I think that there's yeah, I think that there is value in that.
The women who clean the office I work in all wear the hijab. And I don't know what I could say to them as a white man in a position of relative power. I'm a contractor there, but I still work there, that wouldn't be potentially scary and threatening to them, and they have to work there anyway.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering if is your book such that giving them a copy would be useful to them? Is it written to reach out to people who still wear the hijab, and would that be an appropriate way for me to show support for women who want to take off the hijab?
So let me just put it in your context so you can get a greater idea of what I'm trying to express here. So Muslims, there's 1.6 billion Muslims, right? It's a spectrum from the full-on ISIS to I eat pork and drink alcohol, but I'm still a Muslim, right? And then there's all sorts of different kinds of Muslims in between. You have a similar kind of thing with like fundamentalist Christians, evangelicals, Mormons, Jehovah's Witness, I don't know who else you've got on like the full-on like Hasidic Jews from the Jewish faith or on that side. So just very, very conservatives. And then you have the more like an atheist Jew or a Christian that goes to a church that has a rainbow flag on the door, or you know what I mean? So when you see a woman in hijab, she is on that conservative side. Now, she's wearing the symbol that tells you, I'm on the conservative side. But this is the tricky part. She could be forced into it. But even if she is forced into it, she's still drinking the Kool-Aid. She's still got the Stockholm Syndrome. If you came to me when I was wearing hijab and tried to give me this book or tried to talk to me about it, I would be offended. Because I'm still indoctrinated. So I'm not, unless it's a friend of yours, unless it's a close friend and you guys hang out and you talk about personal things all the time and she feels like this is a safe space where she can talk to you about the coercion that's going on in her family or whatever. If it's just somebody that you don't really know, I wouldn't recommend that you even try because it's going to be a negative reaction. It's like if you were to walk up to a Jehovah's Witness and start giving them a pamphlet on atheism or something. There's no point. But I will say that even though you're not approaching women in hijab, that doesn't mean that you can't support the women that are fighting against hijab. That's where I'm hoping people will be putting their energies.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so right there and then there. Sorry.
Okay, we've
I already
got two
said
more.
Yeah.
I had a question about kind of how there is like, I have like had friends throughout my life who chose hijab, right? And here there's a kind of like that narrative obviously doesn't fit in with the fundamentalism. So I'm trying to understand how that fits into No Hijab Day and your approach to helping women free themselves.
So, choice is a tricky word when you're a child and you are coerced into something. So the way you can test is if it's a choice, is what if she chooses to take it off? Choice means the choice to put it on and the choice to take it off. And usually this choice is only half of that equation. It doesn't include the other half. And another, I mentioned this in my podcast with Sam Harris because he was talking about girls that come from, was it the Church of Latter-day Saints, a cult where, 5 or 6 girls are married to this one old man. And these young girls, 10, 12, 13-year-old girls are saying, but I love my husband, but I want to marry him, but it was my choice. And we know that she has been indoctrinated into this cult and that it's not actually a choice. So we have to keep that in mind when we hear people telling us it's a choice. That choice didn't just come out of nowhere because Nobody who isn't Muslim wakes up in the morning and says, I'm going to make a choice to cover myself head to toe in black today with just a slit for my eyes. Nobody would ever make that choice in a vacuum. You make that choice because you've been coerced into it and you've been indoctrinated to believe that that makes you good and pure and clean and you're going to go to heaven, etc., etc.
How do we best support this movement, given that we aren't going to just go talk to people in person, but you can go online, you can show solidarity with the hashtags, and we wouldn't necessarily want to be posting this on workplaces and stuff. How can we best support, other than, of course, donations, public speaking, getting awareness out? I just want to know what your thoughts are.
And also speak out against the corporations that are on the wrong side of this fight. Let them know that they are not winning customers' approval by supporting fundamentalist clothing that gets women imprisoned and killed. All right, thank you so much.
Well, that's all the time we have for today, folks. Again, thank you all so much for coming. Thank you to those who made special contributions to make this event possible, and to our team who helped plan and execute this event. Thank you. And of course, thank you, Yasmine, for joining us today. It has been such an honor. Let's have a round of applause for Yasmine. Please remember to pick up a copy of Yasmine's book outside in the hallway and stick around if you'd like her to sign your copy. Thank you.